You're listening to Stellar Success, Leveling Up for Medical Pros with Dr. Tudor Francu. Join us as we explore how medical professionals can achieve stellar success in all areas of life. It's time to level up.
Hello, everyone. This is Stellar Success. I'm your host, Dr. Tudor Francu, and I have the pleasure and really honor to have Dr. Tom Burns with me today. And we're going to go over a few things that probably are very interesting for a lot of people in our profession. Dr. Burns, thank you so much for coming over. How are you doing?
I'm good, Tudor. Thank you for having me on. It's a good laid back day today.
That's right. Dr. Burns has a very powerful success story in the community, in the medical professional community. And one of the things that he did with really good success is write a very good book with an interesting title, Why Doctors Do Not Get Rich. And it was published about 4 years ago, right, Dr. Burns?
Right, coming up on 4 years.
That's great. And it's an interesting title for me because we deal with, in our profession, with this question all the time. Why are not medical professionals rich? And you have a very good story in there and very good answers to that. But related to this, I just want to ask you, what do you think its definition of a successful medical professional?
There's a lot of successes, and that title, it's kind of designed to grab the attention, but it's actually a metaphor for the fact that no matter how much you get paid per service or per hour, if you get sick or if you get hit by a bus, the music stops. It's essentially it's a book about creating passive income, which I know we're going to talk about. And that's one of the things that can help somebody have a rich life. Now, which creates a little extra money. Money's a tool to get us what we want. Not everybody that has a rich life is necessarily wealthy in the financial quadrant. But, for me, I believe it's different for everybody, Tudor, and it should be. For me, it's being able to control my time. That's the reason I started looking for other avenues of income. I just didn't really want somebody telling me to do things I didn't want to do. And so I think that if you can, the old saying that if you can do what you want, where you want, with who you want, when you want, then, you're probably pretty wealthy. That's one thing. There's other pillars of wealth that we all have to keep thinking of. There's your health. There's your family. There's your social relationships and your community. There's your intellect. Hopefully we're all growing every day. So that was a long-winded answer for somebody that can decide to grow and do life as they choose and still have enough income coming in to pay the bills and have a nice, rich, healthy family and friends. I think that's a wealthy life.
Yeah, that's pretty successful to me.
Yeah.
That's a great definition. I like that thought. And I can't stop thinking about a quote that you said at some point that grabbed my attention. And you said, success isn't just about making the right choices. It's also about avoiding the wrong ones.
Right.
And this is important to talk about, because what I want to know is, what do you think it was a big win early in your professional life and investing life in general that kind of, made you successful?
Well, my success was a long trudge, one step at a time, then 2 steps at a time, then back down 1 step at a time. It was just compounding that probably helped me get to wherever I got. But everything's in stages. The first thing was when the light bulb came on, when I realized, wow, these doctors that are training me are making a lot of money, but they're just not as happy as I planned on being. So that was one thing. I think that was probably the best thing that happened to me. It was, I call it blind luck or touched by an angel, but it gave me the hunger to go look for something else. Now, flash forward 30 years later, the medical system is giving people the hunger to look for that, but it wasn't quite like that back then. And then after kind of learning about it and going through that excitement, getting that first, quite honestly, that very first check from that first property that came in, and didn't matter whether I was sleeping, working, vacationing, or doing anything, the money just came in, and it came in the next month and the next month. So those two things really gave me the excitement to go look for some passive income to hopefully give me that control. And then along the way, nobody's self-made, but for sure, at least not me. I had a lot of great partners, great mentors, people I learned things from, lots and lots of mistakes. And so those kind of helped guide me over time. If you can
Yeah, I want to piggyback on this, what you said right now. Was there anything, in the past that didn't pan out, and you consider some sort of a failure that you learned from?
Sure. How long is the podcast? We can go for a long time. It's an honest answer. I certainly have lost money multiple times, and there's various reasons for that. It can be bad market predictions on my part, and it mostly came down to who I was investing with. So a lot of things. Early on, there were some doctor investments, the imaging centers, the surgery centers, things like surgery centers went great. The imaging center didn't go so well, that sort of thing. So
Yeah.
learned some lessons, certainly learned that not every investment goes well. That was helpful to know that. And that lesson keeps being taught to me, I think. And so most of the things that have really caused the upheaval have been maybe choosing, the who versus the what, because asset classes are what they are, and you can make or break yourself one way or another with an asset class. Just depends on how much you know about it. But sometimes, depending on who you invest with, can cause you trouble. So
Yes, I always say, people are the most important thing. Things
right,
are the second thing in investments. So
right.
it's really important who you deal with, who you invest with. I agree with that. Do you think, is there any, after all these experiences, good or bad, is there any particular skill or habit that helped you get through all these situations?
I think I think I have unmedicated attention deficit. I always want to learn something new. And so I think the fact that I always read new things, I will try new things, somewhat embracing the unknown, so always wanting to learn and get better. I think that's led to some knowledge that's helped me in my investment career for sure.
Yes.
And the second thing is dealing with people, because, we might go faster alone, we go farther as a team, right? So I like being with people, and so I've run across a lot of people. Some of those have turned out to be the people I learned lessons from, unfortunately. Others have turned out to be great partners and great mentors. And so I think that's really helped me move along, because not only have I learned from them, I watch them and realize, hey, that's really possible. If they did it, why can't I? So that's been a real help. You've got to have hope, and they gave me hope for sure.
That's awesome. Yes. Um, we were talking earlier about, the importance of medical professionals, not only to rely on their professional income, but also have multiple streams of revenue and passive income. In your perspective, what do you think someone like us starting over should focus on developing those kinds of passive income streams?
So, well, certainly I'd never tell anybody what to invest in, since I've had successes and failures and everything. But I'd go. We as professionals, we make a good income compared to the rest of the world. In fact, if I just looked at a poll the other day, and it was the top 10 professional salaries in the country. 8 of those were doctors, and the 9th one was a nurse practitioner. So, at least according to those pollsters, we make a lot of money, and we all know that comes with giving up, the decade of our 20s and a lot of what's going on now. But nonetheless, we do have some money. So the first thing I I would suggest is to make sure that you live below those means so that you've got some discretionary income to use. And then try to have that money make money for you. I like to say have that money make babies and have those babies make babies. That's what compounding is, and that's what sets you free over time. So beyond that, try to invest in things you understand. You really want to understand the investment. We've talked about the people. Make sure you know there's good people, and that's sort of a whole podcast on its own. How to hopefully determine if you're investing with somebody ethical. But try to get into something you understand. Well, a lot of doctors are in real estate. That's why I got into real estate. It's just simple math. You buy something for one price and you rent it to somebody for more than it costs you to own it, and you get to keep the extra. Arithmetic. So very understandable. I would start small because that's where you learn those lessons. So if you are just now deciding to invest and you've gotten with your network and talked to a lot of people that you know and trust, and you kind of feel really good about investing in something, whether it's a debt fund or it's real estate or it's syndication, invest small, because again, not everything's going to work out. Hopefully it does. I can promise you, if you do it long enough, you should lose some money at some point. I'm not saying that mean, it's just going to happen. But if you invest small, number one, you get the lessons either from it working well, or even if it doesn't work well, because you can invest small or you can invest large, but the size of the lesson is always going to be the same. So why not start small first, get those lessons to where you get the confidence, you get the experience, and then you can either focus on one type of asset class or not, and you'll feel a little better about doing it. So, currently I like, with the interest rates and where everything is and where the capital stacks are in all kinds of distress, certainly debt funds are a pretty good place to put some money right now. I mean, you can get 12% annualized, so you can get paid 1% a month on some of those. It's taxable income, but still comes out at pretty good return. So that's one thing. If you've got something, well underwritten real estate can be good. And then you could go on from there. Again, I'm not suggesting people invest in these. I'm just giving a couple of examples that are pretty straightforward, pretty plain vanilla.
Yeah. And, probably the most important thing, like you said in the beginning, is to start somewhere.
Hey, you got to start somewhere. Absolutely.
Yes. I had early in my real estate investing career, 20 something years ago, I had the opportunity and probably the luck of meeting Robert Kiyosaki early in his career when he was doing those small venue events around the country, and got to know him a little bit, got his book, and I know you have a special relationship with Robert.
Yeah.
And your book was published under his umbrella, so to speak. What I wanted to ask you is, what do you think is the real value of a mentor in an investing journey for a medical professional? Because we're not used to think this way. We're not money people in general. We're professionals, right? But for both of us, Robert was a very influential person.
Right.
In your case, what do you think a mentor can make it or break it?
I think mentors are huge for everybody, doctors and everyone else included. But, physicians, we're already sort of by default, pretty bright. All right. To become a doctor, you've got to, you got to be able to add 2 + 2, right? And so we're pretty bright, but, we're brought up in that scientific world where we can't make mistakes, or we're not supposed to make mistakes. You get paid for that hour of seeing that 15 minutes or whatever, seeing somebody, that surgery. And so, it's hard to start thinking in the investing world, because sometimes you have to think with deferred gratification in mind. So, yeah. And the reason I say that is, many physicians will look at, to get a mentor. It's great to have a mentor who says, yeah, I'll be happy to mentor you. But sometimes, and which I had. I worked for one. I didn't pay him, but I paid by canceling office, and so that still cost me. A lot of mentors are paid, and I would suggest to professionals out there that if you're paying a mentor, you're not paying a fee. It's not an expense. It is an investment. And every time I've paid potentially exorbitant fees to people, I pay well over six figures every year for people to sort of mentor me. It always seems to come back. So that's one thing. Don't look at it as a payment, as an expense. Look at it as an investment. It always has paid off for me over 30 years. But what a mentor can do is a number of things. I think I just wrote an article. It's coming out tomorrow. It's about, having a third party look over your purchase. Let's say you're going to buy a single family home. You're all excited about it because it's really pretty. It's in Florida. It's on the coast, whatever. And you're excited by the flash of the deal, but sometimes you give it to somebody who's not emotionally involved, and they're going to be able to pick out the red flags and pick out the warts on that frog, right? So it's nice to have a third party to look over stuff. It's really, really nice to have somebody who's been where you want to go, because they are more than happy to tell you all the mistakes they made and help you avoid them. And if you want to speed your progress, avoid the mistakes your mentors made. I wish I had somebody telling me not to make all the mistakes I made. But they can rapidly increase your knowledge base, rapidly increase your experience, increase the velocity of your time to your financial freedom, if that's what you're looking for, or whatever level of, financial level you want to reach. But they can be a huge help. And if you've got a good relationship with somebody, they will be honest with you, keep you from making mistakes. They'll give you ideas. It's anyway, I could kind of go on forever. I think mentors are very, very helpful. They will save you money. They will make you money. Life will be a lot simpler.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I'm an immigrant. I came here when I was 28, and I didn't know anything from the financial point of view. And the first thing I did was basically invest in my financial education, and mentorship was probably the best investment I ever made, like you said. And I totally agree with that. Even now, I'm doing different kinds of investments, and I'm looking for different types of mentors to help me, get through difficult situations like that.
Right.
But yeah, I totally agree with you. I think yourself, you are a mentor for a lot of people. And I have to, tell you that your book was probably one of the best books I've read for medical professionals that personally I learn a lot from. And I would totally recommend everybody to get it. It's a great book. I always have it around me wherever I am in the house. Why Doctors Don't Get Rich. It's a catchy title. So, Dr. Burns, I want to kind of shift towards being a successful professional in general. And, we're very busy people. We're investing in a lot of things. But what are we doing about our health, our nutrition, our fitness to be successful? For me, this is a very important aspect of my life. And I want to see your opinion and your perspective of, as a doctor, how do you look at those aspects of life?
Sure. I think these days with technology and at least our knowledge, I think we can live longer. And what is it that Peter Attia says? It's increasing your lifespan, or what your living span as opposed to your lifespan. So
Your health span.
good,
Yeah.
healthy cognitive days. We're seeing it happen in politics, right, where the cognition can go
Yes.
down. So I believe, I'm hoping that I die with a deal in play. I hope I don't know how old I'll be, but I've seen guys in their mid 80s, even up close to their 90s. In my office when I was a doctor, they were doing deals. These were oil guys. They were vibrant, and they were 89 years old and doing deals. So I think that keeps you young. I think always trying to learn something new and running numbers and doing things like that keeps you young. I hang around with a guy. There's a friend of mine. His name's David Sinclair. He's out of Harvard, and he's a longevity expert, and he's got all these things he can do, and all these supplements you can take. But really, when you sit him down, you ask him what's the what's the main thing? What's the quote, the secret? He goes, look, 80% of it is getting good sleep, what you eat, when you eat, and getting exercise. And so I think if we
Yeah,
all do that, and it's easy to be a physician and not eat well and not exercise because we're busy. You got to be very disciplined to do that. And you want to spend time with your family. So, you got to prioritize all those things. But I think that's why I'm still doing all this stuff. It keeps me young. And although you know, my wallet doesn't say I'm young anymore, and neither does the mirror, but I sure do feel young. And so I think that having a purpose keeps people young. And I hope to have a purpose for the next 30 years.
that's awesome. That's an awesome line. Having a purpose. I totally agree with that. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's important to keep to be consistent on your goals and on your, perspective in general in life.
Yeah.
Um, do you have any big projects right now going on? Any big goals to get you to the 90s and over 90s?
Well, I'm playing age group tennis. So I played tennis when I was young. I gave it up for 30 years. And so for the last 2 years, I've been coming back. But here's the typical Burns thing. I came back, I had a certain game that I learned in the 70s. And now they play it different. They hit a different forehand. So I spent an entire year learning how to hit the modern forehand. I'm much better now. Uh,
Awesome.
but here's the flip side of that story. I've been at it for close to 2 years, and I believe I've been injured about 15 months out of those last 24. But that's my goal. My goal is to get in the top 10 nationally in my age group. And so,
Awesome. Are you playing in leagues right now?
well, no, because my elbow is still injured. But
I see.
I was when I'm healthy, I'm playing in leagues and playing in tournaments and playing in these
Awesome.
national level tournaments. So we'll see. That's
Yeah.
a lofty goal. I'm hoping the first level is top 100, top 50, and then top 10 is a real fight. But at least top 50 would be a good start. So
That's
anyway,
great.
it's not a financial goal. I don't need a jet. Would love to have one. That's never going to happen. I just want to be able to travel the world. I think seeing other cultures and seeing other parts of the world is just probably one of the best things in the world besides having a family.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's one of my passions too. And it's funny. I love tennis too. I play tennis. My daughter was a big tennis player at some point, and I try to keep up the same way you do. Um, it's interesting. Do you other than the health and fitness, in your spare time, do you read a lot of books in the investing world? Do you listen to, podcasts? Do you have any favorites, like any favorite book or podcast that you could recommend to people to kind of, you know, uh, elevate the level at some point?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm always reading something to help me, except every once in a while I'll stop and read a fiction book that has nothing to do with business. So I read couple books at a time. So I've always got Audible. So I'm finishing a book on Audible by Gary Vaynerchuk. I just listened to Naval Ravikant, but I'm kind of a Benjamin Hardy, Dan Sullivan fan. They did a
Hmm.
series of a few little books. They're not doing that together anymore, but Who Not How and The Gap and the Gain are fabulous books. They're just
Yes,
there. You can take the premise there and really help yourself. You can help your life out and smooth things out a little bit. So, but I'm always listening to. I've always got lots of credits on Audible, so I'm always got something. I've got a meeting up in Dallas tomorrow, so I'll be driving for 6 hours. So I'll get 6 hours into an Audible book.
that's great.
Podcasts. It depends. A lot of it might be kind of more on the personal development side. I read real estate books and finance books, but probably a lower percentage now than I would personal development because a
Mhm.
lot of our success comes from the mindset anyway. And so I figure my mindset always needs some kind of massaging. So I'm trying to just get better. But I listen to Ed Milet. I listen to, little things from Darren Hardy every once in a while. I've got Pat Flynn's podcast I haven't listened to for 9 months. And, so I've got a few others, but Kenny McElroy, he's a friend of mine, and he just does great stuff. Kenny's got really great. He'll keep you up on the market if you listen to Ken McElroy.
Yes,
And
I
then
totally agree with that. I love Ken too.
yeah.
And I think recently he developed his YouTube channel a lot more and has a lot of information up to date there too. But yeah, Audible is one of my passions too. I'm trying to keep up with like getting all the titles that I want in there. But this is a good segue for me to go into something about mindset that you mentioned. And I love the quote that you have in the book, in your book, uh, that was very powerful. And you said, your life is a mirror of your thoughts.
Right.
So if you want to change your situation, you cannot do it with the same thoughts that got you to where you are today.
100%.
It's a very powerful statement. And what I wanted to ask you is, do you have any nugget of or piece of advice for someone who is starting over right now as a medical professional in investing world or learning? Anything that you can think of, like giving a nugget of advice?
Sure. I mean, and we're talking to a lot of medical professionals. You know, if you think back to your first year of med school, you can't manage a patient in what you do now with the mindset that you have as a first year medical student. And you had to make those mistakes on the tests or have your preceptor tell you what to do. You had to learn along the way with small little nuggets at a time. So now you're getting into investing. It's simple, but it's not easy. I mean, the simple thing is just buy stuff that pays you money every month and keep adding to that. And one day you'll have enough money coming in. Super simple, not as easy as it looks. So you've got to have the learner's mindset. You have to be a continuous student. And then as you get better, I would kind of flip it back and say, and then you have to have the teacher's mindset to try to teach those that below you, so to speak, that haven't learned that yet, because you learn double when you teach. My son's a jujitsu purple belt, and he was just given that quote that you learn twice as much when you teach or something. I'm bastardizing that paraphrase, but you just have to realize I am good at being a doctor, and I absolutely can be really good at becoming an investor. But both of those professions, you're never finished. You're never as good as you can be tomorrow. So always just try to be a little bit better tomorrow. Be humble enough to understand that you can learn from everybody, whether they're younger than you or don't have as much money than you or don't have the letters after their name. They may have done some things that you haven't done, and be humble, learn from them, try to give and take, try to give back what you have. And if you go in with that learning mindset, I think I think people feel that they want to help you, and you will learn. Compounding is a real thing, and compounding education goes right along with compounding money.
That's a great quote. I'm going to put that in the notes.
Thank you.
At the end.
I never remember what I say, so I'll be glad.
Compounding education. I love that.
Yes.
That's great. Dr. Burns, it's amazing to have you on the podcast. You're always a great teacher. And I just want to ask you and tell us how is anybody can get in touch with you, contact you. It's the best way.
Sure. The best thing, or the thing that can help people out the most, if they wish, is they go to my website, richdoctor.com/newsletter. I have a free newsletter. I put out a lot of the drivel I said to you each week, and hopefully there's some good, helpful stuff there on real estate, mindset. There's just a lot of good, helpful things that come from my life and often the mistakes that I've made. So maybe I can help you miss some mistakes. And if anybody really wants to get a hold of me, just send an email to hello@richdoctor.com. I see all those emails, so I'll be happy to talk to anybody.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate having you on the show, and I hope everybody's going to learn a lot from this.
I'm honored that you asked. I think I learned something just listening and having this conversation.
That's great. Thank you so much, Dr. Burns.
Thank you.
That's a wrap on Stellar Success, Leveling Up for Medical Pros with Dr. Tudor Francu. Interested in joining us? Go to stellarsuccesspodcast.com/guest to apply. Stay stellar and level up.